Hello, my name is Alex. If you, like me, often have to create new files with custom sizes for specific uses in Illustrator, like for example, if you're editing a video footage, you might have to make an artboard for a specific screen size. Or maybe if you're a social media content creator, you might need various Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or some other format. And as far as I understand from the research I did the past few days, there isn't a good way to do that. Now, there is a workaround which involves creating a template file and then just opening that template. But I find this is quite inconvenient. So what I want to do is show you guys how to actually add or remove or edit existing artboard templates in Adobe Illustrator. Now, I'm talking about the presets which you can select in the new file menu, the welcome screen, for example, if you even have that turned on, that is. To be honest, without the ability to define your own custom-sized settings, that screen has always been completely useless, at least to me, that is, and I have always had it turned off. And now I'm actually using it. So here is a brief overview of the process that we will go through, and I am going to put timestamps to these moments in the video. So first of all, we will have to locate where Illustrator keeps the presets, and then we need to understand the format that they are stored in. We'll make a backup of the original file with the original presets, and then we will make the edits that we want and replace the original file. Now, before we start, I have to make a quick disclaimer, obviously. Although Adobe products have been rather resilient in terms of their installations, and usually changing settings or plugins or presets should have no decremental effect on the core installation. I mean, you can delete them if you want. The next time you start the application, it will restore them to default version. But I still have to say that doing what I'm about to show you is not the intended way to use the application. So if you screw anything up, it's entirely your fault. Okay? Now, saying that, I still think that the worst case scenario is that you might have to reset everything back to default, which might be a significant inconvenience. So keep that in mind. All right, let's start. Where to find the file that we need to edit? Now, I have to say huge thanks to Monica Goss, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is her name, who has a wonderful publication with a very detailed description of where Illustrator keeps its settings and template files. And I'm putting a link to that in the description of the video. Now, the artboards were not part of that publication, but it gave me a great starting point. I am recording this on my Mac, but I will also show you how to do this on a Windows PC. Now, if we look in the folder where Monica points us to look at, and let's see, that is New Document Profiles. By the way, these New Document Profiles, this is also something important. Actually, in Windows, the New Document Profiles and the Artboard presets are in the same place. Now, on Mac, that's not the case. So on Mac, we have to go to actually, and let me see if the preferences are listed here. I think they are. Print options, preferences, there we go. This should be it. So you need to go to your drive and then go to your user and then in library. Now, if you don't have library listed here, and by default you shouldn't because it is a protected folder, there are ways to get here. For example, an easy way would be to go in the menu, go and then click and hold the Option key on a Mac, and that will show the library. Or if you are inside the folder, and that goes for any folder, you can click Command, Shift, and Dot, and that will make all of the hidden folders visible. Right? So now you can see the library. Anyway, we go into library, we need to then go into preferences, and then we're looking for Adobe. We're actually looking for Adobe Illustrator version number. So we're looking for Adobe Illustrator, and that would be 27 is my version at the moment. And then here is the folder. And this is the folder that we are looking at. These are the files that we need here. In the Windows version, the same folder will also contain the new document templates. They are not here, so on the Mac they're actually in Application, Illustrator, I think here. Yep, there we are. Now these are also important, and we'll talk about this a bit later in the video, but I'm just showing you that you might need to access them as well. On the Windows, they are this folder, New Document Profiles, is actually in the same place as these files. So which is the file that we're interested in? Well, it is this one. It says preset document profile data and then version 2, and it's a JSON file. If you guys have any coding experience, you should know what a JSON file is. And for those of you who don't, it's a key value pair kind of file. Now I'm going to open that. I'm going to use a coding editor. I'm actually going to use Sublime Text, but if you don't have a coding editor, you can open it in TextEdit just as well. It will make things a little bit more difficult in terms of navigating the file, but get it down here. Oh, there we go. Right, you can open it. It's just a text file. In the Sublime Text, it looks like something short, but it is not. This is actually a very, very, very long line. And the thing is that when they publish this file, they remove all of the spaces just to conserve space mostly. But of course that makes it, well, not very readable, human readable at least. There is a easy work around that. There are these scripts that usually are used to beautify or prettify your text, to format it in a way that you can easily read it. You can have one installed actually in your environment, like for example in the text editor that you use, but I'm going to assume that you guys don't have such a thing. So what I'm going to do is select all. So I'm going to do Command A or Control A if you're on a Windows, and then Command C or Control C to copy all of that. And let's go back to your browser, and then I'm open a new tab and just search for something that can format a JSON file. So I'm going to say JSON, and it suggests something because I've already visited it, but yeah, JSON formatter or JSON prettifier or JSON beautifier. It will give you something that you can use. It doesn't matter which one you choose to use, they work in pretty much the same way. Let's click this one. It gives you a box to paste your JSON file in, so I'm going to do that. And then there are a bunch of things you can choose. I personally prefer 4 space tabs. Doesn't matter. This is just how many spaces form one indent space. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to say process, and there we go. I have the same file, but now formatted in a way that is easily readable. I'm going to copy all of that again, Command A to select all, and then I'm going to go back to the Sublime Text and paste it in. Now, before actually I do that, so we said that we need to back up the file, right? Because if we screw something up, we need to have a way to restore it. So let me go back here, and backup is just as simple as dragging that to your desktop with Alt. So I'm just holding down Alt, which basically makes a copy of the file instead of moving it. So now in the desktop, I have a copy of this file. I'm going to go back here. And since in Sublime we have opened the original file, I'm just going to work in it and keep the version that I have on the desktop as a backup. All right, so I'm going to paste in the formatted, the prettified version of the file. You can see here on the right, and that's one of the things about code editors, that they give you a lot of extra functionality. You can easily move through very large files and see where you're at. Now the actual benefit of using a code editor is that you also have color coding. You might not have it turned on by default if you open this file initially and it doesn't know that it's a JSON, because that might happen. All code editors have a way to tell them what kind of file you are working on, what kind of language you're using, and if you change that from plain text into whatever it is, like in JSON at the moment, you will see, so for example, the file might look something like this initially, but then when you change it into a JSON file, it automatically highlights the various types of operators or values or keys, descriptions, etc., which makes it much more easier. So this is the reason I suggest you use some code editor, but you can do this in text edit just as well, right? So here is the same file. I'll just paste back in here. The only difference is that you don't see the colors. You don't know, oh, this is the value, this is the descriptor. But I mean, it might be a little bit more difficult to navigate, but you can still do it. Okay, so before we continue with the edits, I have to tell you, I guess, a bit about what the JSON file is and how to work with it, unless you of course know what it is, and in which case you can skip ahead. First of all, you can see that the file is opened with a square bracket. In any programming language, that means that this is a list or an array of things. And indeed, so this opens the file, and then immediately after the square bracket, we can see a curly bracket. Curly brackets, again, in most languages, mean a dictionary. Now, a dictionary is a specific data structure that has a key or a descriptor or a property name, if you want to think about it, and then a value. Right? For example, let's see, width. There we go. So we have width, which is the value name, the key, the property name, and then the actual value. And they are separated by a column. And you can see the Sublime, in our case, highlights things like, for example, the value of this property is a floating point number. But you can also have a Boolean value like this one. So transparency grid is false. You can see here that this is a TPG property, has a value which is a string, which has a Boolean value inside. Right? So this is just a string, which something reads out and then interprets. Or you can have a value which is another data structure of itself. Like, for example, bleed offset has the value of a list, and then the list has 4 values. If we look at this element here, so this is a list which contains a dictionary. Now this dictionary, you can see these vertical lines, these give you the opening and the closing, which allows you to easily follow where an element starts and ends. This one, I'm guessing, goes all through the entire document. But this one, if we follow this second vertical line, we'll see ends here. So this is the closing bracket for this first element. And then we have a comma, and then a new element opens, and you will see that again it has the same structure. App specific key, artboard layout, which is the same as here. App specific key, artboard layout, etc. Right? So this entire thing here is one element in this list of elements. And actually this, what we have selected right now, this is one artboard preset. You can see then the second one being opened and so on. Later in the video, I'm going to go over the property names, all the keys in these dictionaries, and discuss what they mean or might mean. If you are tech savvy enough and you've worked with Illustrator for long enough, you would be probably able to guess most of them, if not all. If you want to come with me on the journey of understanding what everything means, skip to that moment ahead. Before we continue with the edit, I am going to show the same thing on the Windows, for those of you that want to see that. So on Windows, as we see from the blog post, we need to go to our users folder in our user and then app data. Again, this is a hidden folder, so you will need to unhide it, and you can do this by clicking on view, and then there should be show hidden items. I am on Windows 11, but on Windows 10 is similar. You should find it under the view menu, and then from here we want to go roaming, Adobe Illustrator version, and again I'm using the same version on both my machines. It comes from Creative Cloud, and then here is the localization. I'm using the English version, 64-bit, and there we go. So here is the same folder as we saw on the Mac, and here, as I show you, that the Windows version actually has the new document profiles listed here. And these, again, we'll come to them in a bit when talking about the actually editing the JSON file. All right, back to the Mac then. All right, so now we need to start making edits. Let me start an Illustrator just to have some reference of what we are doing exactly. So I don't have the welcome screen here. I have it on the Windows machine, but what we're talking about is this thing, right? So the new document, we're starting here with the recent ones, but we have these mobile, web, print, film, and video. And actually, these are exactly these: art and illustration, film and video, mobile, print, and web, right? So you can see these tabs here have the same name as these template files. And then under each of them, like for example, let's get to print, we have the predefined ones. We have the US letter, the European A4, and then legal and print large. So here, for example, I want to have, let's say, A5 format, which is something that Illustrator doesn't usually have, which is half of that A4. So let's go to Sublime. Let's look at what property names and values do we have here. I'm going to go from the title. There it is. So for example, the first preset that is listed in this file is the letter one. And you can see that the units are millimeter unit. The width is 215.9. And then there should be a height somewhere. There it is. Height is 279.4. We have the mode, the CMYK. So cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And there we go. This is this. So changing that to RGB will make the preset automatically has this or this selected. Then we have number of artboards. You can see that it has one artboard, but you can actually change it and make the preset. So this will populate this field automatically. What else we have? Where is actually, so let me, oh, there we go. Settings file. So this is the reason why I told you that you have to pay attention to which template is it using. So at the moment you can see it's using the new document profiles print template, right? Because this is listed under print, and you can see that it is listed under print because it is preset source print. So this essentially drives the category under which it will be listed here. So this would be under print, right? If you change that to web, this preset will go and be listed here under web. It's important to pay attention to these two values. Let's go back here. Bleed offset. So bleed offset is your bleed, which is this. What else is important here? So there are a bunch of things that I am not sure what they mean. You might have a better understanding depending on what exactly is your workflow within Illustrator. Things to also consider, for example, is, let's see, so lock bleed, I am guessing that will lock is probably this. So you make the bleeds all follow the same value or be different. So we have the raster effect settings. So this, which is raster effects, this one, use 300 ppi. You have the actual ppi. So this is what kind of screen are you going to look at it. Like 72 is regular, but you might have something with more pixel density in it. So you might want to change that. And of course, this has to do with the size as well. So make sure you take that into consideration. Pixel aspect ratio. So pixel aspect ratio is if you're going to work with square pixels or maybe they are rectangular. And this is important for those of you who are dealing with film or some specific screen media which does not have square pixels. This description, so this is this here. So you can see under the name. So for example, what are we working on? We're working on letter. you can see we have letter, which is the title we saw here, and then you have under that it says 215.9 to 79.4 millimeters, and we can see that's exactly what it says here. So this is the description, and you can change that to anything, or you can just keep the size as a reference. Of course, that means changing that will not change the size, it will change the description. But if you change the size here, you might want to also change it here, so you have a good reference. There are actually two places where you can change the size. So you can see that you have width here, and then you have width here. Now, these are different, and they are different. Why? I have no idea why there are two places to define size, to be honest. But if you feel like experimenting, go ahead. Just make sure you come by and let us all know in a comment what you found. Okay, I am not going to go over every single last one of these properties, and I don't even know what some of them mean. But again, I don't have to, because I don't care for most of them. You can see that they have a thumbnail URL, so this just points to some PNG, which I'm guessing is the icon file for this icon here. And then we have a tip, start a new letter document, so I'm guessing this is what pops out here. Yep. And so on. Again, I'm just giving you this information, and then you decide how you're going to use it. Now, just to show you that it works, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come here and paste. So now we have this. So we have letter here, and we have letter here. I'm going to change this letter and make it into an A5, as I said I would. Again, you can change this. So millimeters unit, you can change it to, for example, I'm guessing inch unit would be imperial, and then pixel unit if you want it in pixels. And actually, if you scroll down, I'm sure we can find things which are in other units. This is print again, so this is millimeter. Let's go a bit more down. Let's see what we have. Oh, there we go. We have preset source to be web. So, yep, pixels unit. Okay, so it's a plural. Do we have something in which is not in millimeters? I'm guessing not, because I have my settings, my unit set to millimeters, so I'm guessing it changed everything. But maybe, just maybe, there's something. Nope, everything is in millimeters. Oh well, I'm guessing that if you're using imperial, and that if you have that changed into your preferences, it's probably going to have everything listed here instead of millimeters into inches. All right, so we changed the name to A5. We're going to keep millimeters unit. Now, what are we going to make? The size of A5 is half of A4, so we want, and I'm going to make this into portrait, so I'm going to say that the width is, let's say, 148. Yes, 148, and then the height would be the short side of the A4, which is 210. And then I'm going to change that here as well, so this should be 148, and then this should be 210. Okay, one artboard 300 is going to use the print preset, is going to be listed under print category. What I want to change? Oh, I want to change the blade. So usually when I'm doing things for print, I work with 3 millimeters of bleed every side. That seems fine. Oh, wait, we need to change the description. Okay, let's change that to, again, let's list the size. So I'm going to say that this is 148, 48 over 210 millimeters. And where is the tip? Start a new A5 document with size 148 to 10. There we go. So I'm going to just say save. I pressed Command S or Control S if you want, or just save from here. And now let me close Illustrator. And you can see here that we don't have A5 in the moment, right? So if you go into print, there is no A5. So I'm going to close Illustrator and I'm going to reopen it. And ideally, we should see if we have that listed. So let's say new, and now if I go under print, you can see I have an A5. It has the size that I want, millimeters. The bleeds are correctly filled in. So I can, let's choose actually an A4, and then I'm going to change it inside. I'm going to say, okay, edit artboard. And this is when I realized that the new document window and the drop down with the artboard presets in the properties toolbox populate from different places, which in my mind makes no sense, but I'm sure Adobe's developers had good reasons for it. Now, after an entire day spent into searching any text-based file related to Illustrator for anything that had to do with artboards and presets, I couldn't find any way to edit these, which is unfortunate, as it would have been very nice to have the presets here as well. Anyway, the new document dialog is already a very good start, I think. Way better than the template file workaround. So I hope I was helpful to you guys. And if so, please give a thumbs up to this video. Thank you and have a beautiful day.